my save system again. There's a few things that I've added since the last video. I've gone ahead and added a little game over menu. I've fixed a couple title bars, or added some title bars. I'm going to fix up these interfaces better eventually, but for now they've all got the little title bar going now. I've added a return or back button, take you back the menu. Still haven't fixed up these, but let's look at where I left off. My save game system. So the loaded trigger has a whole bunch of stuff going on now. Let's start at the top. So the first thing that happens is the state of interface menu switch that's going to be saved. So I want to turn it off when I reload. And I may have to jump off anytime randomly. I do have to go out and do some stuff today, so I'm trying to fit this in while I have some time. So the first thing is a switch. No menus are turned on. Now it's going to enable flight controls. It's going to set the active interface to the flight interface, the flight menu. This is the main interface that the player uses to navigate in space and explore. And then here, we're going to reset the minimap. What this is going to do is it's going to clear it out, it's going to start it fresh, it's going to scan for all the new spawned actors on the map and spawn their icons. And then I've got this resume game button, or resume game event here. I actually want to put that at the very end, I believe. So once everything's done, then the game resumes. I'm going to move things around eventually, like controls. They'll have to be at the very end too, just in case. Then the first variable that's going to set the minimap divider value. So it's going to check the map that the player's on and store this. So I want to do this after I reset the minimap because it's going to take this new value. And then because of my weird wonky party member setup, when you restart or reload a new game, it's all fresh from the beginning, so the rover is considered in the party. So I'll remove the rover. Thruster power. This stores the thruster value, which gets removed after reloading. This reef stores the rotation. And then I went over these in the last video. This little loop just preloads maps that were loaded while the player was playing before he saved. He had several maps loaded. This will just reload any maps that were preloaded already. Orbit map. And then this last one just initializes the orbit map, preloads the orbit map. And then there's a couple little things here. This just checks to see if the context overlay was turned on, and if it was, update the context overlay. This will just update the docking hail mine buttons. And lastly, after I put a comment here, resume the game, I have this table axis loop here. Okay, I don't think that's the right comment that I want, but this loop here, this is another important part of my save system. So It's hard to explain this, but when you save the game, it loops through every map. Go into my save event here, the save game event. It goes through every single map in the game, and on every single map it'll run some actor loops. So for each map in the game it'll run these 2 loops. So it'll run those 2 loops, I think it's about 8 times because I've only got like 4 or 5 maps. And for each loop it stores all the information related to ships and space objects. Pretty much each actor template has like a different loop here. I'll condense things eventually, but right now that's how I want it set up. So when you load the game, obviously, you know, it's starting from a fresh start. When you reload, it's going back to default, but all of your tables and stuff are getting pulled in, so it's like starting a new game with all of the tables and switches saved. So anything that you have set up on your map like this is going to reload. So, you know, you see these 2 ships. I've got one named Florida Bonita and one named Ship. So those will spawn every time you start a new game. Every time you, this is just an example, every time you start a new game, these 2 ships will be right here on the map. But if you've killed them, if you go into the game and blow one up and then save your game, without this deleted trigger in here, without the loaded trigger, not deleted, this loaded trigger here, it would just spawn every single time. So you could kill it and reload your game and it would reappear. So the loaded trigger, since I break it down again, what this does is, first it checks if there's a saved table. If it's greater than 0, that means that things have been saved. And then it tries to find whether this actor has been saved. So basically it's checking to see if it finds anything using table.find, and it's searching through save data ships. It's searching through my saved table on the y-axis, which is number 2. It's searching for this actor's full scripting ID, which in the case of the save system is going to have the map name and a colon followed by the scripting ID of the object. So it's going to look like this. And it's starting at x1, y1, z1. So that you can see me set that up in the previous video. But if it doesn't find anything at all in the table, that means that the actor was killed and wasn't stored in the table. So it's going to return a 0. Take this path and delete it. So you'll see that it starts out on the map when you load a game, but it'll delete itself almost immediately if it doesn't find itself in the save table. And that means you saved a game where this actor no longer exists. So every time you save a game, it loops through and stores all the actor IDs. So if you had killed this actor's ID doesn't get stored in the table, so it's not going to find it here. It's going to return a 0 and it's going to delete itself. If it does find itself in the table, I want to store that information here, table.find, in a local variable I've called table axis. So table axis, I think I set it to be persistent when I don't have to, but I'm going to leave it persistent for now, just because everything works right. So table axis will store the row. It's going to find, it's going to go all the way down this first, I can't even highlight the first column, it's going to go all the way down the first column in my table here, and it's going to find the matching scripting ID. So then it will, find a whole row of info like this. It's going to find the number for the row and store it. So that, this is row number 3. Table axis will be 3. So then the next thing this is doing is just checking to see if the actor is currently on the map, the same map, making sure that's on the same map, so I can spawn it. And the rest of the positioning is all handled here in position actor. It's just pulling information from each cell of information. Basically pulling information for rotation from the second row, coordinates from the third row, and whatever from the fourth. And then the last thing I do is delete that table row, so I can remove it from the save table. If the actor has been, if the actor spawned and is on the map and everything, this will delete the row from the save table, so it's no longer in the save table. Because once the save table has gone through and all the actors that are already saved as part of... Okay, I gotta start fresh with this. So these two ships are considered part of the default map here at this point. So there are two situations I had to consider, and first is if you kill one of these guys, when you restart the game or reload the game, I mean, they will both be on the map automatically because I've got them right here on this map. They're part of the default map. The base, fresh, new game map has two ships on it. So every time you load a game, these two ships will appear. If they've been killed, if you kill one first and save a game and then reload it, they will delete themselves. The second condition, or second case I had to come up with a solution for, is if you are flying around. Let's give you an example here. I can just jump right into the game and give it an example run. So when you start, you'll see there's these two spaceships. They'll start attacking, flying at you. There's a couple conditions I have to figure out first, and that's related to AI, but for now, let's just blow one of these guys up. And then we'll save the game here as totally dead. And then we'll go back to the title screen. Now when I load totally dead, why did it do that? It hasn't done that. I broke something while going through and showing examples. Oops. Well, let's try and see if I can figure out what I just did to my save game system, because it was working about 20 minutes ago. I don't know why it's... I didn't set anything to main like that. I might have accidentally clicked something, but this should be turning on the flight menu. I have no idea how I messed that one up. Probably rewind the video now and see exactly where I did that. Okay, so we'll load totally dead, and you'll see there's only one ship now. Now, the case I'm trying to solve is if you were to... Oh, it's not going to work right now, so let's go back to the title screen. Let's say I spawn a new actor on the map, this little guy right here. And let's kill this one here, it's a little tricky. I've given everybody a little bit more health. So I've killed one that spawns every time you reload the game, and I've spawned a new one that doesn't create every time you start a new game. So we'll go through spawned ship. We'll go back to the title screen. So now when I reload, you'll see the spawn ship is back and the other ship is gone. And you'll see all these crazy log messages here. So let me screenshot this little log message so I can break it down as I go through the extra loop I've created. So if I had not added this loop, that little ship that I spawned would not reload. So at the very bottom, I've got this table axis loop, and what it does is it goes through just the first column. It goes through the y-axis and starts with the first column. So it's going from top to bottom. It's basically just going row, 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 row down the y-axis, but only in the first column here. And we say it's starting at y1, z1 because it's going to start in the top left corner. And inside that loop, what I want to check is, first thing I want to do is get the actor's ID. So in here, in the cell, it's storing the ID like this, the full name. So it's got this little line in front that I have to get rid of. So I'm using left cut to get rid of this little line. And then I'm using a split into collection. So this is confusing because loop cell, as it goes through each row in the table, loop cell is actually storing the first element in the table. So it's storing the actor's full scripting ID for each iteration of the loop. It's going to go down one row and it's going to have a different actor ID. So this little variable here, loop cell, is going to hold the element of the table that's containing a full scripting ID. So I want to actually check map.actorCreated, and so in order to get the map, I have to split that into a collection using the delimiter of a colon. I've gone over that many times in the previous videos, but it's just breaking it down so I have a separate set of a collection containing the map ID, which would be space, and collection 2 would be the actor ID. So really, I only want to get the map for the first half. So it's going to check map space, or whatever map the actor was on, and then it's going to check to see if the actor has been created. And so I can just use the full scripting ID there, or loop cell, which is holding the full scripting ID. And if it has been created, it's just going to tell me that it was created. So you'll see all these, Blue Stars created, Aerodonus created, Jovian created. All these have been created. And you'll see all that. And then it's going to find anything that isn't on a map, anything that has an entry in my table, in the save table, but isn't on a map. That means it hasn't been spawned, it hasn't been created, it doesn't exist when you start a new game. There, you know, if you were playing for 10 hours and 8 things have spawned on your map, if you restart the game, those 8 things aren't just going to respawn on your default map. They're not going to be there. So I have to go through my my table here, find any actors that were spawned later, that were saved into the table, and I have to recreate them, because by default 001 won't just recreate actors that aren't there. If they aren't on your default map, or if they aren't default on your map, like these 2 ships here are the only ones. If I were to create 8 more ships and reload the game, it would only spawn these 2. They would delete themselves if I've killed them already, and nothing else would happen. So I had to create this so it can go through my save table and find any actors that were saved but aren't originally on the map. So it actually has to find them first, find it in the table to get the table access, and then I get the map ID separate. I've just created some variables. This is just for my own readability. I can store the map that has been saved by, again, doing a split into collection and then taking the first element of that collection, which will be the map ID. And I've got this little message returning the axis, the map ID, the X and Y position is going to spawn. So you can see anything that hasn't been created, like this guy here, Baron von Bounty, not created. Its information is stored at axis 5. It was spawned on the space map at 6800 by 4720. So then it's going to go through and just create that actor on the map. And the only thing that I haven't added yet, you'll see here, I've added another row, X5, for actor template. So I still have to add that in because it won't know what actor to create. And right now I've only got it checking ships and spawning NPC ships, because they're the only thing. I only have one type of NPC ship at the moment. So we'll get to that eventually, adding more templates, adding more changes to that. So then that allows it so if I were to spawn a whole bunch, it gets a little tricky. I haven't tested it heavily yet. I'm still running into issues if I use a timer to spawn actors. Like, let's say I spawn 3. It actually fires an error telling me that I've destroyed the base spawner. So it's a good thing that I don't use timers to spawn things very often, if at all. I don't know if I'm going to. I'll give an example. 1 second. Get my plug here. Okay, so when I start a new game, you'll see like several ships will spawn out of that spawner. I'll go ahead and save the game over this curse word, toots. I was getting frustrated. I'll exit to the title screen, continue the game from toots. And you'll see nothing happens. They don't get spawned. I haven't quite figured out why. I can't seem to spawn things that were created by a timer. If I make a new save, and none of them come back, so I don't know why. This guy spawned down here for some reason, which makes no sense to me. Because the timer is over here, and then the timer doesn't start spawning anything new, so I've run into issues with timer spawns. So you can see they're all up there. And they don't load right. It just starts spawning things from the spawner. They get their own, well, they're supposed to. Actually, I forgot to. That's probably why. I want to add a counter number, so they each have unique IDs, but it starts to get weird with timers. So, I don't know. I'm not sure. I might have to ask somebody for a better solution for spawning and creating actors using timers. We'll make 3 of them. So they get a unique number, ship 1, ship 2, ship 3, all in the... It's a counter added to their names. So now the table should have 3 separate ships in it. But it also, I run into this issue every time. Base spawner actor was destroyed. And the reason that matters is because that's the actor that was on top of the spawner. If it's the actor on top of a spawner and it's removed because it's not there yet, it's in the save table but it's not on the map, and when it loads into the map it's not in the save table, so it deletes itself. That clears out the actor that all the other ones are getting spawned from off the spawner, so it doesn't want to work right. It'll load one of them. You see these other 2 guys are over here now, but the actor that was on the spawner originally is gone, so it will no longer spawn new actors. So I do have to figure out a way, I think, to position or move spawners and actors around. I'm not sure quite yet, but that's the one little bump I'm having. But I also don't have any conditions in the game yet where I use spawners to spawn actors like that, so there's also a few things left to fix with the way that when they first spawn, they come out, they aren't prepared to attack. So if they were attacking you when you save the game, they sometimes don't come back to attacking you because their target values get cleared out. They don't know who to target anymore. variables are changed. There's some things that I have to figure out as I go, but I'm about to die. So when I die, you'll see my new game over screen that I've set up. The last thing you experience is a bright flash of white just before the hull of the ship gets ripped into twisted steel. The infinite void of space will be your final resting place, and your actions forgotten to time. So, I've made a little menu here where every time you die, you cannot escape from it, you cannot go back to the game. You can only load a game or go to the title screen, and it'll show you a little description down here of each button as you mouse over it, or you can scroll through it with the arrow keys. Any of the movement keys will move the menu bar around. This gets deactivated over here, and the screen up here gets turned to static as the minimap is wiped out. So this will bring up your load game menu, and then exiting the title screen just goes straight back. There's going to be a confirmation menu that I put in for loading, saving, and for quitting, but I haven't yet. So as of right now, I can mostly load up all of my save games with no issues. They all basically just, the only one that doesn't work is the one that's deleting the spawner actor. So I'm going to figure that one out with a flag of some kind, I think. And they all almost do that if they had the spawner. Boop. I can make them angry by shooting at them. There's a couple things I've got to figure out first, but for the most part the save game system's working for everything in space. All the actors here, like space objects, they restore their scan states, so you can dock at this planet now, go back into space. Let's say I save the game. I'll just save it over one of these. And then go back to the title. Oh yeah, it's because I still have this stupid spawner. So I don't want to deal with the spawner right now. I also don't actually know how to check what actor is a spawner actor, or if it's been placed on top of a spawner. I have no idea.
Scanning.
Quit. Okay, so now I can save the game. Call it planets. And go back to the title screen. That will spawn. This little ship will be down here shooting me still, but this planet is still scanned, so I can still go into it. I can still look. I haven't added a pause for entering menus yet, so ships can still shoot you and everything. It's kind of dumb. So let's put this guy somewhere else, just so he's far away. Make a new game. We'll scan this guy. And we'll save the game. So I don't have a condition yet set up to determine whether something was selected when you save the game. Planetary. So if you were to click on it, all of this restores correctly except for the selector frame. So the selector frame stays invisible. I have to fix that. So you'll see when I continue from there, it's still got the context menu up, still says it's selected, but you don't see the green selection frame because it's invisible. So I have to fix that. Let me add that to my to-do list. Fix selection frame not turning on if game was saved with a selected object. And we'll save that. I've also add game over message window. I've actually done that, so let's save that. One more variable that I don't think I've stored is the surface scanned. So once you've done a deep scan, got all the hot spots here. Yeah, you go back into space, and now it's scanned. You won't get the interference when you first fly up. The scan's complete. Everything is the way it should be. However, I don't think I've accounted for that. Deep scan. We'll continue from there. I can dock with the planet, but it's no longer scanned here, so I'm going to need it to check and restore, or save and restore the deep scan variable. So go back into my tables, or I don't even have to go to the tables, it's actually in my save game event, or save game custom event. So for actor ships, there's two things. I need to add templates as well. I need to make sure that I can store the actor templates. And then for space actors, I've got the scan state and then the for context buttons: can scan, can dock, can mine, can hail. Then I'll need another one for surface scanned. So come back in here, and that's all stored in this big long string here. So I want to do an add semicolon and actor of actor ID dot variable surface scanned, and that will give me another variable that I can restore. And we'll go back over to my space objects and go into their loaded trigger, where I've got all the actor variables being placed. And this one, object scan, it's not showing me all the correct variables. Oh yeah, this should only happen if it's a planet. So I want to take that and planet. Since this is a planetary planet only, I don't want it to load up surface scanned in all of these, because none of these have surfaces. So I have to make a second loaded trigger here. This will happen after the previous one. And since this one's a planet, it's got more variables to choose from. So I want it to check the surface scanned, or set the surface scanned. It's going to be this map, this actor, surface scanned variable, and all the way down here I just want to change this 5 to a 6, because the 6th element in my collection here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, surface scanned will be the 6th element that I've saved. And I want to grab that condition over here as well, just to make sure that a save game has been saved. I believe I also want the table access. Yeah, I want the table access, and I'll create a new local variable in the other loaded trigger. So then we'll go back over here, jump in here. I want to make a local variable called table access, so that anything that I have set up here that uses table access, yeah, this right here, this value is using table access. I just want to do this simple little script here. If there is a save game, find this guy in the table and restore whether or not its surface has been scanned. So I don't have to check whether these are created or destroyed yet, because planets, so far I haven't decided if planets will disappear or be destroyed or move or anything, so they're always going to be on the map that I place them on. They should always be in the save table, so I don't have to check. Now let's give that a go. Where am I at so far? Half hour. So create a new game. I'm going to scan this guy in turbo mode. Why are my... That was weird. The thrusters were getting stuck on for some reason. Huh. Couldn't say. I need to add that to my to-do list. Fix ship thruster pose. And stuck. Being stuck on. Okay. Don't know. It's something to do with the length of my button press. If I hold it for a second or so. Oh well, I don't know. So I've scanned the planet. We'll go dock at it.
Entering planetary orbit.
Turbo. There's no hotspots, so I'll run the deep scanner.
Plant life detected.
Then we'll go back to space. And I'll make a save game over this one. Saving hotspots. Oh, yeah. I should only be saving that for planets, so let's get out of here. Go back into my save game system. Almost forgot about that condition altogether. The fact that not everything that's a space object is a planet. I can't just add that to the end here. So let's scooch here. Just gonna cut that out of there. And I'm gonna make another copy here. I'll just copy that and leave that there. So since I don't have the template saved, I can't necessarily check exactly what the objects are yet, but I can, yes I can, I don't know what I'm talking about. I need a template branch here. I can just check the looping actor ID, because it's going to show me every object in the game. So I want to make sure that that is a planet, I believe. And if it's a planet, do this. If it's not, do this. Now, I've had issues with this not selecting any of the children and only checking for parent instead of sub templates, so I might actually have to set this up. Actually, I'll just do that now because I'm kind of annoyed with wondering whether or not it's going to work or not. So I'll select my planets because it's only planets that have surfaces at the moment. And there are no other types at the moment. Rocky, terrestrial, volcanic, frozen, gaseous, copper. There's going to be about 15-20 more types as I go. But I want to connect all the planets to this. This is kind of a dumb way to do this. Simple way to do it, but I think I did that in the right order. Yeah. Okay. So if it's a planet, it should save that extra variable. If it's not, it won't. and only planets will try and load that extra variable. So I shouldn't run into any other issues. Shouldn't. That's the problem with game development. You never know. We'll scan, dock,
Entering planetary orbit.
and deep scan it.
Plant life detected.
And we'll return to space. Then we'll make a new save game. Over this one, we'll just call it Deep Scanner. Okay, so everything saves right. Nothing errors there. We reload Deep Scanner. And you can see that planet is still visible here on the minimap. It's still scanned. I dock at it, and all of my hotspots are there. My scan results are there. So if I'd scanned planets throughout the system, they would still show up. So I can just double check that, go scan a few more, or another, maybe one. We'll go scan this copper planet way up here. It doesn't have any hotspots, I don't think.
Scanning. Entering planetary orbit.
Nope, no hotspots. But now you can see it's visible on the map. If we go back over here, let's get rid of this date value. I've added a date value just to keep track of things, but I want to add times and all that. So reload you. Oh, that was the wrong one. That was an old save. And everything is saved. Positions of planets, these two ships down here, you can sort of see their dots on the minimap. They've been saved and restored. Our visible planets on the minimap have been saved, and Star Chart has everything on it, but it stores all the names here correctly. So we got Eridanus and Athos. There's a couple sizing issues I'm still experiencing here, it looks like. I thought I fixed that already. I just want to make the highlighter match the size that the selector is. So that's another thing I have to fix. Oh. And that, apparently. Add that to my to-do list as well. Fix sector map highlight frame that matches the size of the selection frame. The highlighter frame's still a little bit too small. Okay, so that's how I cover retrieving any actors that have been spawned after you start a new game. Saving and loading the states of actor variables, and this little guy here, I can save my game again, flying around. It's going to store everything, the new positions of those ships, the scan states of all my planets. Both of those ships are exactly where they were, almost as if they had just left off rotating and spinning around. And the only problem I'm having with newly created actors is they don't start doing anything. So if I spawn a new actor, it doesn't start chasing the player. So there's some things in the AI behavior that I have to fix. Those are separate. I've also added a date that I mentioned really quickly, a date and time to my save games. This is not ideal. I'm going to go through and create a more complicated version that stores the date and time played and everything and shows up at the little dialogue display at the bottom of the screen rather than as part of the name. But what I'm using is time.now. Time.now in 001 has a whole bunch of different formats, and the %x will show just the date. You know, in a 1111 format, you know, month, date, year format. with little slashes. So there's a whole bunch of different versions of that. If I go in here and say, date, it's actually time, date. That's all the way down here in date and time. So you look up the one called now, you've got all these different versions. Just showing the year, just showing that 2-number year, showing a time, a 24-hour clock, day, month, and everything. You can pick which one you want. There's also playtime, amount of time played that you can return. So these are the ones that I want to use. How much time has been played in hours, minutes, and seconds. And I want to include the date and the name that the player gives the save file and everything. So you'll be able to see when you saved it, what's the most recent save, and all that. For now, I've just gone ahead and added the time.now at the end of the save game title. So whatever the player types in here, it's just adding a little dash and then the time. So that gets stored in each save slot. I think in the next video I'll go through setting up my save descriptions where you can see the time and everything in the bottom. But that'll be for later. That'll be another time. I think I might be done with this video. I don't have a whole lot to cover this time around other than working on the save game stuff. And I've gone through just about all of what I've added except for the game over menu. So really quickly, my game over menu, you can make a game over menu, you can make a game over screen, you can do all kinds of stuff because there's a party death trigger. When the party dies completely, you want a whole bunch of things to happen, like disabling your controls so the player can't move the corpse around. You might want to fade out the screen, you might want to place some animations, explosions, blood, whatever. So in mine, I've got it set to say that there's an interface on, so it turns on an interface switch. This will update the flight buttons menu by disabling all the buttons. This will turn on it will change the minimap to the static animation, and then this turns it on. So this will show the minimap static animation. The game gets paused, and then we fade out the camera. I think I did a 1-second interval, fades it to black, and after that turns on the game over menu. So that I want to pass as the active menu because I don't want the player to have access to any of the other menus. So it's going to pass main active interface to the game over menu itself. And these are the old message boxes that would pop up. By default, it just says game over. So then when you die, a little sequence plays out, the screen goes dim, and you can reload or quit the game. So I'll just load into a new game and go get killed. Kill me! Shoot me! Get horizontal so it can hit me more. Come on! Doot, doot. There we go. So, when you die, this little menu pops up, gives you a little death message, and the death message I will have change dynamically depending on what you do. You might get sucked into a black hole, or burned up, or explode, or I don't know, there's any number of things that could happen. So I'd like to have a little message. This is kind of like older games that just tell you how you die. I've always liked that system, so I kind of wanted to include that in here. And then it just gives you these two options to bring up the load game menu or quit to the title screen. And all they do is pass priority back and forth. The main interface gets passed to the save load game menu, and then main gets passed back to game over. And you can exit to the title screen, load up any of the games. This one, oh no, it's not broken. Should be able to load up any of my saves except for anything that I didn't have set up correctly earlier. Now, the only other thing I haven't stored proper is the health values, any changing values, health values, max health, stats, and all that. That'll all be another column in my save table, but for now I've got enough to load up a game with positions. Everything spawns back in. Actors that were created later in the game will spawn back in. The scan states of planets and all that will reload. There's a couple more things I have to consider for rovers and rover exploration that I'm not 100% sure about yet. Because maps, I want surface maps to preload when you enter a sector. And when you enter a sector, they have to load off of a table that stores all the tiles on a map, and then it has to redraw the map correctly. So that's another video entirely too. So that's probably all I'm going to do for today. Probably saw me go in here just a little while ago. Go to screamingbrainstudios.com to get all of your free public domain CC0 game assets. There's stuff for 3D modeling. You can texture stuff with all these free textures. There's backgrounds for video games, screens, 2D planets if you want to make your own space game, 2D planet surfaces and stuff, and then interface buttons, lots of textures, tile sets, buildings, board game pieces. I've made everything available for free. Everything is available as a public domain asset, which means you can redistribute it, you can edit it, you can use it in free projects, commercial projects. Doesn't matter, you can do whatever you want with it. It is for the world. That is why I'm here. The tutorials section has tons of old school graphics tutorials, how to make things like isometric graphics, hexagonal textures. And if you don't have any software to do that with, I've made a giant list of free tools that you can download. Some of the tutorials relate to a few things in some of these programs. Some of them are more specialized, but they're all free, all totally free. And if you're really feeling supportive, you can subscribe to my Patreon for just $1. There's behind the scenes stuff. There's a whole bunch new asset packs, or unreleased assets, not so much new asset packs, unreleased assets. I think there's something like 1,000 extra free assets for all my patrons. And you can join my Discord. Other than that, I hope to see you guys in the next video. I'll be talking more about the save game system, making a few more changes and features. We'll see where I get next time, but as always, thank you guys for checking out the videos. Let me know if there's anything you want to see. And until next time.